Hi, I'm Dan Collins, the founder of the LivingPulse organization. LivingPulse is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose goal is to build a community here in Asheville, North Carolina, perhaps elsewhere, of individual spiritual seekers who have been on their own journey both to understand the oneness and the connectedness of all things in their minds, in their intellect, but also be able to feel it. That's the goal. Why did I start the organization? Very early in my life, I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic schools. Very early in my life, I began to ask questions, and the answers I got were insufficient. They seemed to lack logic. So I ended up losing any ability to maintain a belief in traditional Western religion. But I was left with a void. I had some need for spirituality. As I grew older, I began to get much more active in the natural world, hiking, backpacking, and then ultimately I took up trail running, aggressive trail running. All of these things generated in me a sensation, and I continued to be aware of that sensation, that feeling of a pulse in my own body, that feeling of a vibration and light, the sounds, the pulsation taking place throughout the natural world. But I failed to connect the fact that I had a void, that was a spiritual void, with what I was feeling as a sensation. So I began to study Eastern spirituality, and I continued to study that. And at some point, I came across a couple of quotes, and I'll mention these quotes to you. One is by Baruch Spinoza. He lived in the 1600s. He was a philosopher. His quote is, "God is the indwelling and not the transient cause of things." The second quote is by Albert Einstein, who lived in the late 1800s to the mid-1950s. Einstein said, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the lawful harmony of all that exists, but not in a God who concerns himself with the fate and the doings of mankind." So I began to realize that perhaps the sensation that I was feeling was what I needed to fill the spiritual void in my life. And I began to focus more aggressively on trail running. And then I realized my body would not support or sustain the kind of endurance that was necessary to experience that meditation throughout the day. And I looked for other activities. And then over time I realized that, well, there are other activities that can do the same thing. So perhaps it would make sense to start an organization, and that organization could lead discussions, intelligent discussions with people to discuss the validity, the scientific and philosophical validity of the oneness of all life, and also could offer practices, activities that would help people feel that. So I'm going to leave this video with a quote from Alan Watts, who was a philosopher who is no longer with us, but he's kind of noted for bringing the ideas of an Eastern world to the Western world. Alan Watts said, "We do not come into this world, we come out of it, as leaves from a tree. As the ocean waves, the universe peoples. Every individual is an expression of the whole realm of nature, a unique action of the total universe. This fact is rarely, if ever, experienced by most individuals. Even those who know it to be true in theory do not sense it or feel it, but continue to be aware of themselves as isolated egos inside bags of skin." So the goal of LivingPulse is to continue to make our awareness, continue to improve our awareness intellectually of our connection and our oneness with the universe, but also to offer activities to help us get out of our ego and help us become more present in the moment and feel and experience that oneness. Thank you.